Welcome back to another episode of Making Sense of Long Island. For those who are new here, the object is simple. We bring in experts from all facets of life here to make your life a little more affordable and frankly just a little bit better here on Long Island. Today's topic is certainly a hot topic, housing here on Long Island. And we've got a great expert. We've got Dominick Silva, currently a real estate agent with Nest Seekers, previously with Douglas Elliman, who's going to share some insights for you how to get that first home here on Long Island. So Dominick, thank you for joining us today.
Of course, Chris. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Dominick, can you give us some background? How did you turn to real estate?
So when I was in college in Binghamton, I worked
Go Bearcats.
Go Bearcats. I worked in the student living building that I lived in. So I was basically selling leases to students and talking to their parents all day on the phone back and forth about maintenance issues and relaying the message to the manager. And it ended up somehow that I was on call 24/7 in this building. Everybody else had quit because they wanted to go home for vacation and we had no one to work in the building. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stick it out. I got to pay my rent. So I started selling these leases like back to back to back. And I was showing the same unit every single day. And I found like it was fun. Like I enjoyed it and people were giving me good feedback on how I was serving them. So I did some research on real estate and back home where I live. And I found some top names and some of the people that I could see myself being like this, working in this market, and started getting my license while I was finishing college and got the license first year, really didn't do anything with it. I started a couple businesses, a luxury chauffeur service, a cleaning service. I was working at a restaurant still in Hampton Bays and just, trying to pay my bills really. And then one of my first mentors told me that if I wanted to do this job, I needed to go work for the best person in the industry or the best person where I was located, where I wanted to work. So I did that and I found my way to Lena Lope's team and I joined her at Douglas Elliman and was with her for about 3 years and learned a ton. She has 35 years of experience and has been serving Suffolk, Nassau, all of Long Island really for that time. And she does a really great job. The team was number one for homes sold in all of Long Island for the company. And we did 188 transactions last year, about 150 in 2024. Wow. So it was a lot to see and take in early on in my career. So I think that helped give me a big push to be able to help people and see a lot of these situations that people are going through.
Yeah. I feel like recently shows on Netflix and like Bravo, like $1 Million Listings, they really glorified, the realtor and the real estate agent lifestyle. But people don't realize it's a 24/7 job. Like you're on call all the time. And if you don't close, you don't get paid. So it's more of a grind. People think that is, isn't it?
It for sure is. And I feel like the way I view real estate is 3 necessities of life are food, water, and shelter. And the home brings all 3. So that's why, to me, it's such an important job. And it's such a stressful, pressure-driving decision for someone to make to buy a house or even just to start the process of buying a house, trying to find it. Where do I start? What do I do? So that's why I think it's important as a realtor to make sure you kind of bring that collected confidence and calmness to the situation and just guide the client into where they need to go because if it weren't for the realtors, things would be all over the place. Imagine when you bought your house, you negotiated directly with the seller or
oh my God.
And you had competition or there's just a lot of nuances, I guess, that aren't realized. Those shows are awesome. And yes, sometimes it is like that. It's not always sunshine and rainbows, but the moment when you get the closing check, yes, it is a big celebration.
Right.
And it's awesome. But to build up there, you got to hurdle and jump through some hoops and really have a strong team together in order to get you to your home.
Yeah, I mean, thank God we had a realtor because we went to an open house and my wife has no poker face at all. She walked in, I love it, let's buy it. And I was like, honey, don't let them see you. Okay, I'm gonna have a little more of this stuff. So thankfully we had a good realtor who helped us kind of broker that deal. And it did make it so much easier for us to go through that whole process. But before we started taping, we were talking about that process, buying your first home. And you were saying it usually starts years beforehand. So let's talk about people in their 20s on Long Island. What's some of the advice you would give them if they want to buy their first home within 2, 3, 4 years or so?
That's a great question. I feel that you can always be proactive. You can have a goal. Like, let's say you set a goal. You want to buy a house in 3 years.
Right.
So you need to start taking steps now to get there. you want to focus on building that credit up. You want to focus on bringing together a team of professionals, whether it's the lender, your realtor, an inspector, have an attorney in mind.
Yep.
Just, and your realtor can provide you all of these things, but make sure you're doing your research first. You should be putting yourself on notifications for the market and tracking the trends of where homes are being sold, how much, why did this house sell for so much less than the other one? Was it on the market for a lot longer? Like, as buyers, you should definitely educate yourself on the market, because a lot of times your expectations are set by one of your friends' purchases or something that you saw on TV or an ad, and that's not always your situation.
Right.
So I think having that preparation first, gathering the team together, and tracking the market, learning about it a little bit, asking as many questions as you can, building that credit up, save more than you ever thought you could. Just try to, every little thing, even that extra coffee, do it, save it, go buy in bulk and make yourself coffee. It's just a lot to buy a house. So there's a lot of things you can do early on. Just be proactive, and you'll be thankful, because when you're ready to purchase a house, you're going to have a really strong offer and things are going to move very smoothly.
Yeah. We say in banking all the time, people come to us, say, I want to cut down my debt. It's not one major decision. It's the mindset of doing small little things right on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And that same mentality of trying to save up $100,000 for a down payment. That number sounds insurmountable. But $6 a day, $12 $20 a day sounds more realistic. You build that habit, right? Build those habits early on. That helps you kind of build and go forward.
Yeah, and I think if you build it small, then eventually it'll become big.
Right,
then there'll be I just saved $1,000 this week. Last week was $20.
Yeah.
And then all of that together, it just brings more comfort and confidence when you're in the market.
Yeah.
So
we'll come back to buying the first house in a second, but one thing I want to talk about is rentals.
Okay.
We've seen on Long Island now a lot of these developments popping up, Station Yards in Ronkonkoma, New Village in Patchogue, and so on and so forth. Should you hire a realtor to help you find a rental?
So it's never a bad idea to have a realtor helping you out.
Okay.
A lot of friends and family of mine that have been looking for rentals, it's tough because things are not affordable, to be quite honest.
Yeah, man.
I always say all right, I'll give you a firsthand example. My brother was looking for a rental. What we did together was, anytime there was a realtor on something that he was interested in, I would kind of step in a little, scope it out, make sure everything was valid, and talk to the realtor. It was my brother. I'm not going to get a commission and all that. I didn't want to maybe take away from that rental agent. Sometimes that's a misconception, but really, I'm just benefiting him to make sure everything is solid and secure for him to get that rental. But when there wasn't a realtor, I told him, I said, connect with the landlord yourself. Go and talk to them. Figure out the situation there. Make sure if it makes sense for you to stay there long term. If you could sign a month-to-month lease, if you're iffy about it, so I feel like it's always good, because the realtor is going to navigate. You're going to have more access to stuff. You're going to probably get it at a little bit of a better price, because they'll be able to negotiate for you. You won't just have to take it. And at the end of the day, you can also connect with family and friends. I feel like that's something that's very underestimated, the ability to connect with people that you know and love that maybe have apartments in their home, or they have extra space. And that might help you in a transition period to be able to then go get that more expensive rental and get the one that's listed for, maybe a little bit above the budget. So I'm a little bit torn on if you should or shouldn't use a realtor. I think it's more about educating yourself. Use your family and friends to kind of, gauge if you need a realtor. Okay, if there's no one around you, if you've reached out to everybody you work with and there's no connection for you to rent somewhere, then probably get a realtor, test it out. You're not paying them until you maybe get the place. So it's they'll give you the time and help you to navigate the market and see what's out there, because it's expensive to rent too. It really is.
Yeah. Are you seeing more young people now trying to buy their first house or rent, or both?
It's interesting. A lot of first-time home buyers have some money saved. Typically, it's a nice young couple that both has a great job,
right?
And they're making sufficient income to be able to support each other and maybe build some equity in a home. So that, along with maybe potential help from a relative, could help them.
Doesn't hurt.
I've seen it a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe dad comes in and says, "Hey, I want you to get something a little bit nicer than this, Kevin. So let's go, and I'll put in $20,000, $30,000 to help you on your down payment." So I think it's tough because that age is trending up for first-time home buyers.
Oh, yeah.
The
Especially on the
average
islands.
age, yeah. Like, I've learned about all the markets, and when we were really young, like, our parents were in their 20s, mid to early 20s even, buying houses. Now it's like closer to 30, you're getting your first house. And I think a lot of people that are renting, they want to get into a house because they know they're not building any equity. So it comes down to the financial situation that you're in, and you have to set goals, and you really have to build up to something, because you could just be stuck if you just keep renting and you say you want to buy and you just keep paying that payment every month for the rent, and it's not going towards equity. So you got to set a goal and start small, like you said, and build up to the big one.
You know, when it comes to selecting a realtor to help you buy your first home, realtors are a dime a dozen, it seems like, right? Every bus stop station, every social media, everyone's got one out there. What should you ask yourself when selecting your realtor to buy your first house?
Well, I would say when I'm buying anything, I kind of already know what I envision. So I would like to look for someone that has a little creative mind, like a little pizzazz to them. You know, someone that has this spark that they're going to go above and beyond for you. They don't just care about selling you the house. And I guess it's easy to say and hard to find that, but go and research who's closing the most deals in your community. Go and find in my town who has the most listings right now. Try to navigate. Go scope it out. You can test out and feel different agents. And honestly, sometimes a lot of newer agents are really good because they're going to put all their time into helping you. And they don't care if they show you 20, 30 houses. It's like they're going to go until you get that house sold. So sometimes it's good. Of course, there comes a time where the maturity and knowledge of the market and negotiating comes into play, where maybe that new agent might struggle a little bit. But if they have a team behind them, that could be great too, because it was hard for me early. I look really young. Like, a lot of people still think I'm 18. I'm 27. So
good for you.
Yeah,
You're great.
For someone to trust me to sell them a house was something in the back of my head. All right, I just got to be an expert. I got to know my stuff so I can show them my value. And I feel like, again, the general way, go into your market, in your community, find who's closing the most deals, who's listing the most houses, find somebody who just closed a house. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Just find out in the area what's kind of going on. And it doesn't have to be the same town. It could be close by. And, test a few. You don't have to commit to anybody. And I think it's just important because a lot of people will go with a referral from a family or a friend. And that agent might just be a part-timer. They might not really know the market that well. They could be trying to do their friend a favor and, refer them. Of course, you want to refer family and friends like me and you. We do the same thing, but sometimes it might not be in somebody's best interest. They should go out there and scope, even if it's someone they don't know. It's like, do you want your girlfriend to be your therapist, or do you want to go see a therapist?
It depends who you ask, but
right,
that's the real therapist.
Yeah. So there's, I guess, some tension there, but it's really about getting out, testing it, and just seeing who you mesh with. Some people want someone who's very straightforward, to the point. Others want someone who has the creative vision for them and what their family could be there and grow, and how many years are you going to be here? Do you have time for your kids to grow up here, and maybe they inherit the property? Just make sure it's somebody that has that long-term vision and aspect, that this is not just a purchase of a home. This is a generational wealth building tactic, that I can implement into my family for generations.
Yeah, it's true. So, especially how property values have grown on Long Island recently. It really is a great asset that you can pass down from generation to generation.
Yeah. Oh man,
because the island ain't getting any bigger. That's what they always say. Like, some parts of the country, the cities kind of spread out a little bit, to the suburbs keep growing, but our island, they're not making any more dirt. Whatever's there is there. So put your flag in there and say, this is mine.
That's true. That's why it could never be the right time.
Right.
It's just about when you're ready. You got to build up that comfortability, be proactive early, and it's never the right time. Get into the market and lock in a good interest rate, because they're fluctuating. Just a little bit of a change You know,
Right.
You could even explain that.
And
Like,
that goes back to your credit score thing, right? So
Mhm.
even if you want to buy a house 2, 3 years down the road, now's the time to get your credit score lined up, because saving 1% on that mortgage by having the better credit score, that'll save you over $100,000 over the life of that loan. So like you talked
100%.
about, it doesn't start, looking at houses. It starts 2 years out,
Yeah.
doing all the things you talked about before.
Yeah. And yeah, it's really important. A lot of people think they can just jump in and go. They might have a little bit of money saved and
Right.
I think it's easier, but you want to also have a sustainable life, like
Right.
a lifestyle that you're not feeling pressured
Yeah.
by your mortgage
House
payment.
poor, right? That's what we
Yeah,
call it.
it's
Yeah.
it's not a good feeling. So just maybe take a step back, take a deep breath, give it a little more time, set a goal, and just strategize over time. Gather that group of professionals, the people that you're comfortable with. Take the referrals from family and friends, but also do your research on the market, and you'll be very happy that you did this, because by the time it comes when you're going looking at houses, putting in offers, whew, you're gonna feel like, yo, this is the easiest thing ever. Why did all my friends say it's so hard to buy a house?
Yeah.
You know?
Right. You do the right work up front, makes it a lot easier in the back
Yeah.
end. You talked a lot about house poor and budgeting and things like that. You've obviously worked with a lot of young couples get their first home. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see young people making buying their first house?
I feel like they might not always see the long-term vision. When it's a young couple, they get very excited about the idea of owning the home and the idea that I think a lot of them like DIY projects now too, and like they want to make it their own, especially if they don't have a budget to renovate. So I think for them to not make the mistake of missing out on that long-term vision, because there could be a lot of value in something in a neighborhood. It could be the worst house in the best neighborhood, and it could be within their budget, and they don't realize that if they're going to be there a long time, they can buy that house, build equity in it, improve it, and it's going to gain 2 to 3 times more value, or 2 to 3 times faster pace. It's going to gain because they thought they got the worst house in the best neighborhood. Like I said,
Right.
it's I think that's just something
You can't fix the
that-
neighborhood, but you can fix your house, right?
Yeah.
Over time, it's a lot easier to
Yeah.
just take that house and upgrade the bathroom and the kitchen over time. But if the community is not what you want it to be, it's going to be much harder for you to impact that
Right.
greater community.
Yeah, so sometimes they might glorify like really nice finishes and everything, and if they
the
see
wrong things, yeah.
But no, they do
Long
have
term.
very open minds, I have to
Okay.
say. Like some of them are able to envision, something completely renovated that is torn down. But in every situation, everybody is different. But I guess for a first-time home buyer, the biggest mistake is just maybe not giving enough thought to that long-term aspect
Yeah.
of the purchase.
We were house hunting about 2 years ago, and we saw a ton of houses, and we put in a lot of offers, and we lost in some offers and things like that. But we saw a lot of converted basements.
Okay.
It seems that's kind of becoming a bit of a trend in Nassau and Suffolk now, where a lot of people are converting that basement to an apartment, either for a family member or for a potential rental income. So is that a strategy people can look at in terms of buying that house and then maybe renting part of it out for additional income?
I love that you said this, because that is something when I'm working with a first-time home buyer, is one of the first questions I ask them is, are you guys willing to rent out part of the house? Because the help that you get on the financial end from having a rental in your house is like, it's priceless. You
Yeah.
can't even, when you have that extra income, even if it's a little bit, just a little studio from somebody, it's going to help you a ton. So I definitely think it's an amazing opportunity for someone to buy a house that has already a basement apartment in it.
Right.
And also, if there's an opportunity to put one there, even better, because then you can make it how you want, and you can make sure everything is legal, do it the way it's supposed to be done. And that's kind of back to what I said with the family and friends and people asking about maybe rentals that they have, and trying to make that connection yourself first, because a lot of people do have that, especially in Long Island where we are, a lot of basement apartments, and those are the most affordable.
Right.
So I love that opportunity for first-time home buyers. I think every first-time home buyer should try to aim for it, depending on their financial situation. Maybe they don't need it. God bless. That's an amazing thing.
Right.
And yeah, that's spot on. I think it's a great thing.
And like we talked about before, it's not forever, right? Get the house in the community you want to live in. You can always change that basement down the road. So even if it's something where you say, do I want to have somebody live with me forever? It doesn't have to be forever. You can just use it for 5 years, 10 years. You get in a more comfortable position professionally, more income coming in. You could always turn that basement into a family room, or for your older parents moving in as well. It's an option. It kind of gives you the flexibility down the road. Like we talked about, you can't necessarily change the community, but if it's the house, you can change things 5, 10, 15, 20 years, kind of down the road.
Totally, man.
For young people too, I feel like condos on Long Island are certainly continuing to grow. We see more and more condo developments popping up all the time. What are your thoughts on looking at a condo versus a house for a first-time home buyer?
So I'd say a home brings you a lot of control, and a condo gives you a little bit less control, but there are things you don't really have to worry about. A homeowners association, you often hear HOA, the term. Right. They'll take care of a lot of exterior maintenance and your garbage disposal. There's so many things that they'll do that you don't have to worry about. So that's a nice thing, just you get to come home. And it almost reminds me of when I lived in that student living building. I didn't have to worry about anything outside of my place. Like everything else was maintained nicely. There was a gym. There was a clubhouse that had a pool and a billiard table. There was so much stuff going on that was fun. The amenities that condos bring, I think, are really awesome, but it depends on your lifestyle. So I think that if you're, a young couple that you work all day, every day, and you don't really have time to do a lot of yard work, and you don't have time to go to the gym, and, you already are paying for people to do laundry or do little things like that for you, a condo might be a good spot and maybe it's temporary, but it could be a good spot for you to settle down for a bit. Okay, these things are taken care of, so I can use my time. I can optimize it and get all my stuff done, and then not have to worry about exterior maintenance. If I just bought a new house and I don't have sprinklers in, and I got to set up this hose every day outside, and I got to hire the landscaper, or I got to cut the lawn. I got to get a lawnmower now. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that the basement window is broken. I got to go replace the basement window. I think, if it could build up to so many different things. That person that's working all day, every day, and the couple has the job, it's going to be hard for them. So I think depending on the lifestyle, condo versus owning the home, it could go both ways. So really just comes down to like I said, it comes down to the lifestyle. Yeah,
because apples and oranges. That one's better or not. Right. It's just based on who you are, your lifestyle, and what. Yeah.
And if you're okay with paying monthly those HOA fees, sometimes they're expensive.
Yeah.
But there's some really beautiful condos. I sold one in Bohemia, and it was beautiful. Like it's new. It was built, I believe, 2006, and it was a 2-bedroom. Had vaulted ceilings. Kitchen everything was just. It looked like it was brand new.
Yeah.
I think they renovated some of the bathrooms recently, 2013, the woman updated one, maybe 2017, the other one. But it had a full basement, it had a garage, everything they could want. Wow. And it was in a condo. And actually, it was just a woman and her daughter. So it was nice to see that they were going to have a nice place. And there was some beautiful natural light. Oh, man, I actually really liked that community. I'll have to show you some pictures.
Okay, good to know. It kind of goes back to our renting conversation. We talked about some of those developments that are popping up versus renting a house, and it's kind of similar, the pros and the cons, right? Yeah. In the development, you've got people you can call, you've got supers, right, back in the day, whereas if it's the house that you're renting, a lot of it's going to be on you for lawn maintenance and lawn care and things like that as well.
Yeah, it is.
Speaking of rentals, can you share some best practices looking at a rental agreement? What are some red flags to look for? What do you read and look for as a realtor for your clients to say, watch out for this in a rental?
I definitely just want to make sure that they're not responsible for like certain damages maybe that were already done. Mm-hmm. Like I like to go through the house and I'll actually take photos of everything that's already kind of nicked up, or I don't want a landlord coming in and saying, oh, when you moved in, this wasn't like that. So I just always advise them, keep a record of, even if it's the smallest thing, because you don't want to deal with any issues. So just prepare ahead and kind of make sure that they're, not responsible for anything like that. Make sure that they are clear with the landlord. I of course, they have to meet together, and we'll go through the agreement together and kind of check things off, make sure, put some question marks. So that way when we meet with the landlord, we can ask and discuss and kind of compromise on certain things. So it might not even be that there are specific red flags that I'm looking for. It's more just making sure that the landlord and the tenant are clear on their responsibilities to each other. So, like I did, my first deal was a rental, and the floors weren't done yet when they were going to move in, and they just had ripped up the carpet, but they needed to move in. So we got together. The landlord made an agreement that he was going to prorate the first month rent, and he was going to finish the floors in the first 2 weeks. Okay. And they made an agreement they wouldn't be responsible for doing the floors or anything. And he even offered to repaint one of the rooms and stuff. So there was nothing in the lease about it until we brought it to their attention and made sure that there was a facilitated on paper agreement for how this was going to go. Because if we didn't do that, that landlord could have left the floors like that for weeks, months, and then now they're going to be responsible for paying full month's rent. So I just think, just really read everything, read the fine print on those rentals, because they're tough, and some landlords are more stringent than others. And some could feel like your uncle that you knew your whole life, and then others you might never see.
Right.
And they might not be there. So just being thorough and reading through everything. And I don't focus particularly on rentals now. In the beginning, it was very helpful to me to get on the phone and get into different houses to see everything. And there are certain rental agents that just do rentals, and I would definitely recommend going and using one of those agents if you're going to use one for a rental, because they're really in the market and they understand all of the nuances that come up in different towns, because villages, towns, they differ from each other. Village can make very specific rules. Like in Lake Grove, you have to live there for 5 years in order to get a permit to rent the house. So we were selling a house that had 3 rental units in it, and the woman didn't have, like, one of them wasn't legal. The other one was. She had someone in there for 2 years, but she wasn't living there. But now the new person that moves in, and again, I would have to verify this with the village of Lake Grove, but to my knowledge, when somebody would buy that house now, they wouldn't be able to rent it for 5 years. So what happens to that rental that's downstairs, that's already living there, willing to stay? So I felt like that was just like a situation where I was like, okay, this needs to be researched, and I needed to talk to the village. And we did. My team ended up taking care of everything, making sure it all went well. But yeah, certain villages have different rules. So just make sure that things are being followed, especially if it's through a realtor and through MLS.
Yeah.
You want to have everything right by the book.
What's the biggest mistake first-time home buyers make?
The biggest mistake that they make may be focusing on the monthly payments instead of the long-term value, the condition, and the location. I think that plays a crucial part in their family's ability to grow in the future. So sometimes they miss that. They don't see that it could grow into something so much more than it is.
So focusing too much on the short term, not the long term.
Exactly.
Perfect. What's one piece of advice for young people looking to move out of their parents' house?
Be proactive. Save as much as you possibly can. Try to reduce your spending and treat your life like a business. Start tracking all of your expenses. Start building that credit up and doing things that will help you prepare to have sustainability when you buy that home.
Should I wait until I have 20% saved up to start looking for my first house?
If you can wait, I would say it will give you a lot more security, but you don't have to. You can be approved for a loan with 3% down, depending on credit and other qualifications. So having that 20% gives you security, and you'll be able to put money into the house if you need to right away. And your offer will be a bit stronger if you use a lot of that towards the down payment. But it's not always necessary. It really depends on how much this house is and your lifestyle, because you can probably put that whole 20% and get something right away, but not have any money. So you want to have some reserves as well. And it's not needed a full 20% to put down in a house.
So I guess going back to even renting, using a realtor, if you're going to be buying a house that has rental income, you definitely want that realtor to know the local ordinances and the local rules in terms of what constitutes, legal apartment versus not legal, timeline, because that's things you wouldn't know, right? How else would you know that unless you had an expert kind of coaching you through?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have known either. It's until it happened.
Right, right.
And a lot of rentals are not legal on Long Island, and people finish their basements all the time and do things. So that's why family, friends, or you go through the realtor, it's kind of up to you. And how much you can afford, what your budget is necessarily. So
So when you're house hunting, you sit at home all night on Zillow and Redfin, and you scroll and scroll and scroll. Aside from looking at price, what should a prospective first-time home buyer be looking at on those listings in terms of what's going to make it the best house for them?
Okay, I like that. I feel that utilities are very important. So,
like the ages of utilities and things like that.
ages of everything is very important
Yeah.
because when you move in, you're probably gonna end up spending at least $10,000 that first year fixing stuff up. Any house, doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
So having that budget in mind, and just utilities are important to me because natural gas versus oil is a big difference. Not having any cooling in the house could be rough on Long Island in the summertime.
Window units, right?
Yeah, you could use window units and they work really well, but just, maybe think about it. Okay, this one doesn't have it, so maybe I'll get mini splits. Or maybe we'll deal with the AC in the windows for a year and then we can work on getting central air. But yeah, ages of everything, what kind of utilities are in the house, the location, making sure it's within their maybe desired district, or if they live far from work, if there's a house they really love but it's so far from work, sometimes I'll bring it up, but usually they're willing to make it happen if they really love the place, I realize. So I also will look for how many days the house is on the market, because sometimes houses are a little bit overpriced. Sellers get very excited by seeing houses go way above asking, and then they want to list at that final number. So I think when they list too high at that final number, those houses sit for a little bit, and it could be $875, but it might end up selling closer to $8. So everyone that was looking for something at $8 doesn't see that house, $875. So sometimes for me with my clients, I'll set our budget a bit higher,
right?
So we see everything, and it happens all the time. You and I even just saw one recently that the same thing happened. It was listed a little too high. We noticed it early. We saw that it was sitting, and I was able to bring clients there that were way under the budget, but it ended up right around where they wanted to spend.
Right.
So I think that days on market is important. Yeah, the conditions of everything. Just look at the history. I like to see when the house last sold, who listed it, photos back then, compare them to now. Were there really improvements? You want to look, what are the taxes on this house? How much is this going to affect my payments? And I always go back and forth, and we'll run by the houses through the lender, and kind of just make sure everything meets their requirements still. And I think that aside from the price, condition is got to be condition, location, and those ages are important to me, because you, of course you can replace anything, but is it in the budget, and how severe is this problem? Do I need a new roof today, or do I need a new roof in 3 to 5 years? There's a big difference there.
That's good to look. Yeah, you can definitely see those things. Sometimes I notice they list those, new roof, star, new oil, and things like that. You'll see.
Yeah, they're attractive, totally. And it just is an expense you're not going to have to think about. You can move into a house and the owner could say, I don't know how old my roof is. When I moved in, they didn't tell me.
Yeah.
So then that's up to you. You got to
get your inspector.
Yeah, go to inspector. He'll tell you kind of how old it is. But just be prepared. And getting that accepted offer really is just the first step in the door, right? Yeah. So you have a lot of work to do after that offer gets accepted to make sure the house works for you.
You brought up something interesting when you said districts. So I grew up in Nassau County. Nassau for me is pretty simple. You live in New Hyde Park, you go to New Hyde Park High School. You live in Floral Park, you go to Floral Park High School. Suffolk County is a little different, where one town might feed into 3 different school systems.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes prospective buyers might say, I want to be in this school system. They see a house in that town, they automatically assume. You can't do that. You have to actually check on Zillow, Redfin, wherever it's going to be, because the town doesn't always necessarily, one town can go to 3 different schools.
Yeah, it's true. And it happens a lot, actually, especially when you're on the borderline.
Yeah.
Like a lot of houses on the South Shore kind of are right on the border of a lot.
Right.
Like in where Bellport Village is in East Patchogue. Like there's a borderline there where sometimes it gets misstrued. And then, and we have a lot of school districts in Suffolk County. They're all great. I've been to 4 of them myself growing up, and they were all very different from each other. So my firsthand perspective, it's hard to say or like even put down any school, because I went to what you could call bad and I went to great.
Yeah.
So I think that's a cool, unique perspective I have as a realtor, is that I went to 4 school districts. So I saw, and I moved 13 times before I was even in college. Like I was all around the map, and that probably subconsciously got me into real estate, I guess.
Right, yeah.
Right, moving so much.
First-hand experience.
Yeah, I'm
man.
so used to moving, and I've even helped a lot of my clients move things in and out of the house, and they're like, "What are you doing? You're the realtor." And I'm like, "Hey, it's unreasonable hospitality. That's what I do." But yeah, I think that there's a lot that could go with this.
Yeah. So DJ, as we wrap up here, give me your number one tip and trick for first-time home buyers on Long Island. What's one thing you want our listeners and viewers to walk away with?
I want them to educate themselves. I want you guys to go on whatever you like, Zillow, or if you have a realtor or a realtor friend already, have them set you up on market searches that notify you as soon as a house is listed, because I want you to see the price that's listed at. I want you to see when it sells. Look at the status, how it changed, how long it took to sell, because you'll see the houses that go in the first week. They have an open house right away. It was priced aggressively. The right people got in early and often, and they picked it right up because it was done the right way. There's other ones that sit, like I said. Right. But the biggest thing you could do is just educate yourself, be proactive. Early on, just, build that credit, gather the team of everybody so that you're confident. You shouldn't have a lot of questions. You know, I realize a lot of first-time homebuyers, they have so many questions. Take the time to really dial in all that surrounds the purchase, and then take the path right to the sale. You know, like that's really it. Just educate yourself, follow the market in your area where you want to buy. That's got to be it.
If people have follow-up questions, how do they contact you?
They can contact me via phone number 631-461-3438. Call me. Go to netseekers.com and look me up. You can find me on Instagram. Starting to try to post on TikTok.
Look at you getting all young and cool and hip with the young kids. See,
I'm trying. Yeah, you know what? When I was on the team,
you look 17, so why not get a TikTok, right?
Yeah, hey, yeah, it works sometimes.
Yeah,
but I just want to deliver, a lot of value to people in any way that I can, and just try to be a positive impact on them. Because, like I said, this is one of the biggest purchases of their life. So it's important to have somebody by your side that really cares and wants that long-term vision that you have. They want to make it a reality, because there's, I guess, it's not like you're just a number. You can't look at it like that. You really want to have people surrounding you that care and know what they're doing. So just make sure you put yourself in the right position. If you have any questions, call me. You don't need to use me as your agent, but I love helping in any way I can. And of course, I'm still learning. I never met somebody I couldn't learn something from, right?
Good attitude to have, yeah.
I just feel like it's important to educate yourself, ask as many questions as you want, but by the end, you shouldn't have too many, because you did your homework and you were proactive.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dominick, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course. And I'll shout out Net Seekers International Real Estate. We are in the global market all around the world doing properties, yachts, aviation, and art. So
nice. Some
cool clientele, a little upgrade from what I was doing before. And we don't have to include that in. But
good for you, buddy. We appreciate it. Thank you.